Merci. Mais
non, merci, mais c'est très gentil. J'apprécie l'attention.
non, mais en fait, ça va être compliqué. En fait, je peux pas recharger et voilà.
Ça tombe ici. C'est juste
Non, mais je l'ai accroché là. C'est bon.
Non, mais c'est bon si tu le laisses là.
Oui, mais il est 9 heures. Hein. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I'm Arnaud Deschamps, the AIRLAB coordinator. Welcome at the International Air Quality Microsensors workshop and AIRLAB Challenge Award ceremony. Maybe we are going to wait a little bit more for the people who could not find the place, or just the time for the people to connect on Teams. So thank you very much for attending the event, either here in Paris-Saclay or remotely by webcasting. Almost 200 persons have registered to the workshop. Some of them are here and most of them are remotely. If you have any problem regarding Teams, please send a message through the chat to the organization team. I want to thank them for the organization of this conference in hybrid mode, which also contributes to save CO2 emissions. First, we're going to watch a video on the building safety rules.
Bonjour, bienvenue dans l'auditorium de l'EDF Lab Paris-Saclay. En cas d'évacuation, des sorties de secours sont situées latéralement à l'arrière de la salle, en bas, au premier et au second niveau. Le point de rassemblement, quant à lui, se situe devant l'entrée du bâtiment Azur, comme indiqué sur le plan. Nous vous souhaitons un agréable moment. Hello, welcome to the EDF Lab Paris-Saclay Auditorium. In case of evacuation, emergency exits are located at each floor on the back side of the auditorium. The meeting point is located in front of the Azure building main entrance, as you can see on the map. We wish you a pleasant time.
Okay, thank you. We are going to start the workshop. I hope everybody is either on Teams or here with us. I first want to thank EDF to welcome us in its prestigious R&D center here in Palaiseau. Jean-Paul Chabat, the R&D director of EDF, is going to tell us more about the Paris-Saclay campus. So, Mr. Chabat, I think you're here. I give you the microphone for about 5 minutes speech.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure really to welcome you today at EDF Lab Paris-Saclay for this International Air Quality Sensors Workshop. Because air quality is of course a great challenge for humanity. It's a concern for EDF, but it's also a great opportunity for us. You know then, that when we burn fossil fuels, we produce for producing mechanical energy like in mobility, or for producing heat for buildings, or electricity for the grid. This combustion, of course, produce carbon dioxide, but also other pollutants like nitrogen or sulfur oxide, particles, and so on. And you also know that humankind has to deal with the great challenge of decarbonization in order to limit the impact of the global change. Decarbonization will lead to substitute the combustion of fossil fuels by decarbonated energy vectors. And you also know that when producing electricity by using solar cells wind turbines, hydropower or nuclear energy, there are no emissions in the air. So this is why electricity will be the main energy vector for deep decarbonization, but also for improving drastically air quality in large cities. Decarbonization and well-being are at the heart of EDF raison d'être. The raison d'être of EDF is to build a net zero energy future with electricity and innovative solutions and services to help save the planet and drive well-being and economic development. You are today at the research and development of EDF, and we have several activities and partnerships connected to air quality. I want to focus on 2 joint laboratories with academic organizations. The first one is the CEREA, Center for Research on Atmospheric Flows, which is specialized in near-field simulations, and CEREA is developing very powerful numerical tools like Code Saturn Atmo. This is a joint laboratory with École nationale des ponts et chaussées in Marne-la-Vallée, and its field of activity is mainly air quality outside the buildings in the city. But we have also a joint laboratory with La Rochelle University called Forev Lab, focusing on what is happening inside the building from the point of view of energy transfer, but also air quality. In fact, building renovation for energy saving, often reduce air exchanges with the outside, which can lead to a degradation of the indoor air quality. Hence, the purpose of the Forev Lab is to make recommendations for combining good thermal renovation and improvement of air quality. So I hope I have convinced you of EDF interest in air quality and the relevance also of hosting your conference today in this building. So I wish you a very fruitful meeting, and I thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Chabar. We'll be together for about 3 hours and a half today. The agenda of this meeting is pretty tight. I'll be the timekeeper, so sorry for the inconvenience. Karine Léger is the director of Airparif. She will introduce the 3rd edition of the Microsensor Challenge. Karine will speak about the technical potential and perspectives of microsensors that are evaluated through the challenge. This evaluation is complementary with the EU Commission activities on the EU rules regarding the use of microsensors, which will be presented by Vicente Franco, the policy officer of the Directorate General for Environment. So I give the floor to Karine Léger for a 10-minute speech. And I launch its presentation. Et tu peux utiliser ça si tu veux.
Comme ça, hein?
Oui.
Okay. Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me and a great honor to welcome you at the 3rd Microsensor Challenge, the 2021 edition. Maybe just to start with, why did we need a challenge at the origin? We needed to reply to AIRLAB's partners, collectivities, economical actors, NGOs, and to the user community that were looking for information on the performance of microsensors currently on the market. We also needed to compare different sensors according to the categories in order to transparently inform the potential users on the adequacy of the given sensors depending on the use they have. We also wanted to put forth the quality of these devices on the way of improvement in order to encourage innovation and technical breakthrough, and therefore to contribute to the development of an emerging market. That's how we came up with this challenge. It aims at linking sensors and their use represented by the categories. It aims at determining and providing information on the most relevant sensors by category of use, and that's quite new. That was quite new at the origin. It aims at establishing a technological state of art of a rapidly evolving field, both from the field of the sensors, but also when you're looking at the algorithm involved, and supporting innovation to improve this technology. The method is based on independent evaluation campaign in realistic conditions. It's based on multiple parameters and, but it's not a certification tool. Really, it's a challenge, it's not a certification tool. This challenge wouldn't have been possible without the partners, the co-financers, the participants and the speakers. And I would like to thank here our host and partner, EDF, which is our partner since the first edition. The different partners that are also supporting the challenge, a lot of them also since the first edition, and the co-financers, AFD, ADEME, DIMQI2, EDF, our colleagues from Normandy, Grand Est, Atmos Sud, Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes, and Corsica, and a special thank also for this third edition to Atmos Hauts-de-France, since they took in charge some of the testings in Lille. I also would like to thank the many participants who entrusted us to test their precious devices, and to the speakers, of course. The evaluation panel of this third edition is made of 20 organizations. It's a very strong consortium made of public, private, research, local, national and international organizations. All of this is based on rules and protocol, perfectly transparent and made available on the website for the participants. And in this third edition, there are also new developments. In addition to the previous categories, outdoor air quality for monitoring, awareness, or in mobility. In addition to air quality monitoring, awareness and piloting, in addition to the citizens' microsensors dedicated to measuring exposure and awareness, for the first time we also evaluated the do-it-yourself sensors. These settings took place in realistic environment, as I mentioned it, in the calibration lab, of sensors being carried by people, in vehicles, but also in monitoring station. And there was, for the first time, a relocation of evaluation in Lille, thanks to Atmos Grand Est. Atmos Hauts-de-France. The challenge is growing and developing. In 2019, there were 38 solutions tested, almost half of them being international. In 2021, there are almost 60 solutions being tested, and almost 60% of them coming from abroad. The challenge is becoming even more international. That also reflects the state of the market, and that's 35 companies from 13 countries that have been involved in this third edition. Something also new in this third edition, it's an interactive platform. All the jury opinions, the complete evaluation, the sub-criteria, the scores are made available, and you will also be able to make comparison between different solutions. It's also something new that has been developed especially for this third edition. I'm sure we'll find out soon enough what are the sensors that have performed the best and survived those different testings. You will find out and share expertise with our different speakers from France, but also from abroad. And I wish you an excellent workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karine. I now call on stage Vicente Franco, the policy officers at the Directorate General for Environment of the EU Commission. Okay, sorry. You have to press on this button because I need to put some
Yes.
in this.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. And good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. For me, it's a way of turning a page, actually, because the last business trip that I did was in 2019. It was the previous edition of the awards, so it's really nice to be out of my kitchen for a while. I will introduce myself for those who do not know me. My name is Vicente Franco. I'm a policy officer in the air quality unit of DG Environment. That's the team of about 20 people that gives technical and legal support to most air quality legislation in the EU. And my task today is essentially to show you what we're doing in terms of the revision of the air quality rules that is ongoing. It's an exciting time for us, as it is for you. This revision, just to give a little bit of context, was first announced with the European Green Deal communication at the end of 2019. And in that communication, which I encourage you to read because it's a very interesting document, which lays out the main policy roadmap for the next 30 years. The Commission committed itself to proposing new standards, to overhauling the standards by aligning more closely to the World Health Organization recommendations, but also, and crucially for you, we announced what we would strengthen monitoring, modeling, and all of the provisions that actually make the standards, not just the limits, but also everything that the legal framework that is around it. And that legal framework, if we were to put it in one slide, it looks like this. At the top we have the ambient air quality directives, which tells you what to measure in ambient air and how to measure it. That's mainly the directive that was entered into force in 2008. And that is complemented by the two other prongs of the policy, which you see at the bottom of this slide. So we have, on the one hand, the National Emissions Reduction Commitments Directive, the NEC directive, which sets long-term reduction commitments for 5 main pollutants, and is intended to lower background concentrations of these pollutants. Here we have separate limits for different member states, reflecting the state of technology and the makeup of their economic sectors. And the overarching goal here is to have the impacts on health between 2005 and 2030. And then the third prong is the source-specific emission standards, of course. Here we would have the energy efficiency standards, the Euro standards for vehicles, and so on. These are different pieces of legislation that address specific sources. So what we're doing these days, this year, the work is very intense actually, is working above the dotted line. We're working on the revision of the AQDs. And why we're doing this, it's not because ambient air quality legislation is not working. Actually, the headline and what we can say, looking back over the past 20 years, is that the EU clean air policy actually works. It's been delivering reductions in the emissions of the main pollutants. You see a trend line here. Sorry if it's not very clear, but the years is from 2000 to 2018, so the clear downward trends for all of the pollutants there. The picture would be a little bit different for ammonia, which is difficult. It's coming from agriculture and it's difficult to tackle, and there it's more flat. But for these main pollutants, we see reductions. But however, if we look at the picture in terms of exposure of our population to pollution, we see that a significant part of the population is exposed to pollution levels above the EU standards. And if we overlay the previous WHO air quality standards from 2005, we see that the proportion of the population that is exposed to levels that are affecting their health is unacceptably high, I would say. It's really, really high. So we can do better, and that's why in 2019 we started the first chapter of this revision, which is a fitness check of the ambient air quality directives. That is a sort of internal audit of our legislation, which was looking back at the 10 first years of applications of the directives. This was a very long exercise. I'm not going to go too much into details, but the overall conclusions, the main conclusions, were that air quality remains certainly a concern, that the standards have been effective, although partially in reducing pollution, and that the standards were less ambitious than the scientific evidence. At that time, that referred to the WHO air quality guidelines, which, as you know, have been updated just a scarce 4 weeks ago. So this is even more true today. We're even less ambitious than the very latest scientific evidence. So it was clear that we needed to act. And during the fitness check, we identified a series of shortcomings of our current legal framework. The first one is in terms of health outcomes. There's an unacceptable number of premature deaths due to air pollution. EEA quantifies it at 400,000 per year. Admittedly, this was double 2 decades ago, but that's still an unacceptable number. So we set out to work on that, and perhaps in the new framework to think of ways to adapt to evolving scientific recommendations. Secondly, there were implementation shortcomings. So the fitness check made it evident that air quality plans have sometimes been ineffective. And it was also pointed out that there were insufficient penalties and compensation mechanisms linked to exceedances of the air quality standards. On the right-hand side of the slide, you see, just as an illustration, that the Commission has not been shy in addressing these implementation shortcomings by taking the member states to court. We currently have 31 cases pending. We've recently, over the past years, had 8 rulings of the court in Luxembourg, so we are pursuing that to the extent that we can in the courts. Third, there were governance shortcomings. As you know, local air quality is impacted by sources that are outside of the control of the authority that is proposing the measures. It's the reality of how air quality works. You see an illustration on the right-hand side. I think that's for the city of Frankfurt, where you see that actually roughly 30% of via source attribution, you see that probably 30% of the PM 2.5 is coming from sources in the city, and the rest is coming from elsewhere. There's also the point, and you are all very aware of this, that some measures may appear ineffective or seem disproportionate, or they do not get buy-in from those affected by them. Fourth, there were shortcomings in the assessment. I think this is particularly interesting for the sensors community. We saw that flexibilities in how the directives are drafted sometimes impacted the comparability of data. We saw that the monitoring rules offered flexibilities that were sometimes stretched or exploited, notably in relation to the siting of the monitoring stations. And we also saw that over the past 10 years, the modeling capabilities and also the measurement capabilities with sensors have improved, allowing with more detail and the possibility to monitor in more points and so on. So that would need to be incorporated in the revision as well. And then last but not least, and also interesting for the sensors community, is that we saw that the public still, even though there's reliable air quality information widely available of high quality and often in real time, an example of this is the EEA's Air Quality Index, which is one of the most successful products of EEA. We have seen that our our citizens are not always, or they don't feel always that they are well informed about the air quality around them. This is a result that you see on the right-hand side. It's coming from a special Eurobarometer of 2019. So what are we going to do about this? Well, we're now at the stage of preparing the impact assessment, which means that we're going to look at all of these problems, identify the drivers, and propose solutions with different scenarios. That's how we do impact assessments in the Commission. We'll do cost-benefit analysis and so on. It's a rather complicated exercise where we're supported by external consultants doing the modeling and so on. These are big contracts. But what I want to focus on is just to let you know that we're going to have interventions on 3 policy areas, which I will go over quickly. The first one is the EU standards. The second is what we're calling the legislative frame. And the third one is monitoring, modeling, and plans. So we're doing this, if you remember the first slide, this is according to the commitment that we put forward in the European Green Deal. So for the policy area 1, what we said we would do is that we would align more closely to WHO standards. We said this before the WHO standards were published. So what we need to do now is to look at them closely and analyze how feasible and how cost-effective it is to align to them, and to try to do this as closely as possible. Obviously, the goal here always is to improve air quality to the greatest extent possible, but we're taking into account, on the one side, the scientific advice, that means WHO standards, guidelines, and then also there's the part of feasibility, cost-benefit, and so on. So that is ongoing. In policy area 2, we're going to improve the framework by, namely by including provisions on penalties and public information, which were missing or just very succinctly spelled out in the current directive. The idea is to improve the quality and the implementation of plans to achieve air quality objectives in a timely manner, to strengthen public participation as well in the development of the plans. And another point is that we will perhaps include clear provisions on access to justice and penalties and compensation linked to exceedances. And the third one is that we're going to strengthen air quality monitoring and modeling, as we promised. So we are set out to improve the reliability and comprehensiveness of the assessments, taking advantage of new technological developments. And we want to ensure that at the same time, that all member states receive the same high quality and timely information about their air quality. So what does this all translate into for sensors? Well, there's 2 things. In early 2020, in the previous event when I made my intervention, I announced that we were doing a project on sensors. We were going to do a deployment of sensor boxes, roughly 20 sensor boxes. This is being done by JRC, and this project is now about to come to an end. We've had deployments in Zagreb, in Oslo, and in Antwerp, and what we've seen is that sensors can actually work and they can deliver good results, but they need extensive validation and they need the right calibration. So it's looking, the picture is encouraging. We're seeing that the sensors with the proper validation and calibration, they can work. So what we're trying to do is build a framework that is going to put the quality of data still at the center. So we're still going to have, for the foreseeable future, of course, the monitoring stations. But the challenge for us is to make this framework adaptable so that as the quality of sensors progresses, we can incorporate the data that they produce as well and supplement what the monitoring stations are producing and help us reach the goals that I listed in my presentation. And for that, we need a little bit of your help. We need to engage with the sensors community, and that's why one of the most important parts of my presentation is to make you aware that we have this open public consultation. It's open since the 21st of September, and it will run until 16th December 2021. The link is on my last slide. We do encourage you to take your time, sit down and have your say. We know that you have important things and messages to convey to us, and we will be listening. And I conclude with just a little slide with the milestones so that you have a clearer idea of what we are doing and when. The next step for us will be the Cleaner Forum in Madrid. That's a high-level political event that we host every 2 years. Then we intend to finalize the impact assessment by the first half of next year, under the French presidency, by the way. And in 2022, we expect the proposal of the Commission to be adopted by the college, by the Commission. Then, of course, this is a full legislative process, so Parliament and Council will need to be involved. That will happen in 2022, in 2023, and that's when we can expect to have a new directive. But that's not the end of the road, because that's the directive, and then we will also need to have the implementing acts. So what we're working now on is, like I said, the framework that will allow us to integrate all the data sources, and that includes sensors. And then further down the road, there will be implementing acts where we will go into details of how that will be. Oh la la. I think that's my time. So thank you very much. I'm not sure if there's time for questions, but I will stick around, and I'm very happy to be here, like I said, and thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Franco. I think it was time to stop your speech, otherwise it would have been too dangerous for you. So it's not a big deal, but okay, we will continue. The AIRLAB Microsensor Challenge could not be done without partners who are all members of the jury. They met regularly in the steering committee, and the challenge laureates have been chosen through a shared consensus. Let's see what are their interests in the challenge, and again, thank to them for their time and commitments. I again want to warmly thank Pietro Bernardara and EDF to welcome the air quality community in this impressive R&D center at the heart of the now prestigious Paris-Saclay campus and university. I also want to warmly thank all the partners who participate financially and intellectually to the success of the third edition of the AIRLAB Microsensor Challenge. A particular thanks to Atmo France, which has led the outdoor air sensor evaluation for the first time this year, to AFD, the French Agency for Development, to ADEME, the French Agency for Environment, and to all the regional air quality observatories which have contributed to this edition. Launched by Airparif and public partners at fall 2017, AIRLAB is building a community that counts today 116 members, among which 80% of SMEs and startups, large companies, research institutes, local communities and public bodies. Each brings their own ideas, skills and resources on the table. The current rate of air quality improvement is not fast enough. We have to do more and quicker. All the more, emergent pollutants have also to be studied and reduced. We need to find new ways to improve, come up with new ideas and make them a reality. This is the purpose of AIRLAB, to catalyze innovative solutions for air quality. I want to thank the Airparif members who have supported the launch of AIRLAB 4 years ago, and those who have recently joined the steering committee with new issues which need answers. The International Air Quality Sensor Challenge is one of the 24 projects labeled by the AIRLAB steering committee, but not the least in terms of budget and team commitments. Finally, a new AIRLAB website will be available early next year, which will display a platform dedicated to the challenge.
So EDF is historically interested in the topic of pollutant dispersion and air quality our industrial side, and also to support local community, urban community. This is really at the heart of the raison d'être of the EDF group, which is to build a zero carbon future based on electricity, innovative solutions and services for the planet and for driving well-being and economic development.
We believe that microsensors can complement our regulatory measurements as well as our quality modeling efforts to create a more comprehensive mapping of air quality at different scales. In addition, improving air quality in the future will require citizens to change their habits. Microsensors can help everyone have a better grasp on air quality issues and can give people incentive to adapt their behavior. We also wish to help our partners to use microsensors. We are the key organization for air quality monitoring in northern France. It is therefore important for us to stay up to date with new sensing technologies. By getting involved in the challenge, we plan to maintain our expertise in air quality metrology.
Atmo Grand Est has been a partner of the AIRLAB Microsensor Challenge since its launch in 2018. With several years of experience in the field of microsensors, our objectives are to work along two axes. One, to accompany the enthusiasm of our partners, citizens, industrialists, local authorities, state services, by seeking to be the key contact on the subject. Two, to evaluate the possible uses of microsensors to reinforce the Air Quality Observatory, but also the services offered by Atmo Grand Est. Our participation in the AIRLAB Microsensor Challenge is fully in line with this double objective by developing our knowledge and expertise on the performance of different sensors on the market to better identify the potential uses.
Within the framework of the agency's missions, we support operational or research projects aimed at developing citizens' awareness of air quality. The aim is to encourage citizens to adopt a sustainable behavior change to improve air quality. To support this change, measurement can be useful. Even if it's not enough, human support is also needed through the provision of knowledge, the exchange of experience and decision support. In this context, measurement can be based on microsensors. During certain experiments, malfunctions were observed. For instance, two identical sensors do not give the same value. A sensor displays the same value even though the user has moved to a more polluted place. These malfunctions can lead to the disengagement or disinterest of the users. It is therefore very important to have reliable microsensors that are adapted to the different users. The AIRLAB challenge is ideal in order to assess the microsensor offer, their metrological, ergonomic and economic performances. This is why we are partner of the challenge.
Nous avons souhaité être partenaire pour la seconde fois du challenge microcapteur de l'AIRLAB d'Airparif, car nous permet d'alimenter notre veille à la fois sur l'offre de microcapteurs, mais aussi sur leurs évolutions technologiques. Nous pouvons donc apporter des réponses à nos partenaires qui nous sollicitent régulièrement sur ce sujet. Nous pouvons ainsi leur proposer des expérimentations avec les microcapteurs les plus adaptés en fonction du contexte, des besoins et des objectifs exprimés par nos partenaires.
Our participation to this challenge aims at involving researchers that are experts in metrology of air quality and also aims at assessing the accuracy of such sensors to be used as tools for scientific projects at a research level.
We implement a lot of projects with microsensors, and to be part of this challenge is very important. It helps us to choose the right sensor for our different projects and to guide our partners.
The challenge provides a very unique opportunity to understand the performance of the sensors. In our program, we ask high-quality measurements and the measurements of non-quality. And to evaluate the measurement quality, we have the quality assurance procedures, which are extremely important. We would like to understand what is the performance of different sensors and what can we recommend to member countries to be implemented in their countries and territories. In this respect, the challenge provides us a good opportunity to keep updated with the development of the sensor technology and be in the position to provide the best advice to the member countries.
So microsensor technology for air quality monitoring concern at EDF a very large panel of application. From monitoring pollutant on an industrial site, to monitoring air quality in an urban environment, up to monitoring air quality indoor within the building. For all these applications, we must be cutting edge with innovation, because our industrial responsibility.
Air quality microsensors are used quite widely within Atmo Grand Est for awareness and communication operations. We are currently evaluating their potential to reinforce our air quality observatory within the framework of measurement campaigns or to enrich our modeling tools.
We use microsensors boarded on drones to analyze boat plumes, oxide nitrogen sensors to monitor urban highway neighbors' exposure, mobile microsensor to increase citizen awareness. We even produce an open source device with microsensors for indoor use and public meetings.
Also, we give the recommendation on the use of the low-cost sensors for different applications. World Meteorological Organization, together with other agencies, produced a statement on the use of low-cost sensors. And one of the recommendations is for the producers of the low-cost sensors to take part in the comparison and characterization exercises, which does provide the opportunity for us to get the best quality possible at a given moment of time. And challenge does provide such an opportunity. So in this respect, I would like to congratulate all the winners of this year's challenge, and I would encourage more companies to take part in this exercise in the coming year. It is extremely useful for international organizations such as the World Meteorological Organization.
We believe air quality data management is critical. It is important to be able to evaluate, store and compare data from various sources so that they can be used effectively. They can also be an input to air quality models. Our previous studies show that citizens want sensors that are easy to understand and sensors that are easy to use. For example, compatibility with all smartphones. It is therefore important that sensors show results in a simple way, for instance with red or green lights. We also believe that the possibility for users to build themselves the microsensors will be a real market trend in the years to come.
In a booming market, which today is not framed, not standardized, in which new sensor manufacturers regularly appear, offering more and more products, a market that directly responds to the expectations of the population and the actors of the city, who are waiting for more and more precise personalized information in terms of air quality, it seems important to have an evaluation device such as the AIRLAB Challenge in order to enlighten the potential users of microsensors on the adequacy of the product performances with the possible uses.
Regarding market development, we have the feeling that there is an abundance of supply as well as a strong development of demand, with more and more local authorities wishing to equip themselves. This increase in supply and demand reinforces the interest of the challenge.
Au sein d'Atmo Normandie, nous sommes attentifs à l'évolution du marché des microcapteurs. En particulier, pour la mesure en milieu industriel ou portuaire, nous regardons les évolutions technologiques proposées, notamment pour la mesure de nouveaux polluants tels que l'hydrogène sulfuré, l'ammoniac ou certains composés organiques volatiles comme le benzène. Nous serions d'ailleurs prêts à utiliser des microcapteurs dans ce type d'utilisation pour une prochaine édition du challenge.
To our point of view, the evolution of microsensor market should focus on better quality and reliability of the data recorded, especially for the microsensor dedicated to measurement in mobility.
We think at Atmosud that this field is growing every day and is only at the beginning of its growth.
Some of the microsensors still need to improve the precision on measuring some of the pollutant to lower uncertainties. This is a very important requirement for EDF project, for instance. The other challenge is the price. We have to try to reduce the cost of these technologies to make that more affordable and make our project sustainable. So I hope that the market will evolve in the next years toward these two directions.
Thank you to all AIRLAB partners for these videos. Maybe we can come back on the main presentation. It is the main presentation, actually. So it's now time for the AIRLAB Challenge Award ceremony. I almost feel the pressure rising up among the audience. Few explanations. For each sensor categories, 1 or 2 speakers will present the state of the art and their feedback. Then, depending on the jury decision on whether or not a category should be awarded, I'll call on stage a challenge partner who will give the award to the winner. So we wish to thank all the 35 challenge participants and congratulate the coming 12 laureates. Finally, for a conclusion and perspectives on this AIRLAB Challenge edition, we will listen Oksana Tarasova from the World Meteorological Organization. So, for indoor air, we spend 80% of our life indoor, surrounded by numerous polluting sources. For indoor air category, I call on stage Olivier Ramalho, project manager at CSTB and OQAI in France, for a 10-minute speech.
So good morning. I will present a short talk about indoor air quality sensors and their use and what we expect from them in the future. So to begin with, just a reminder of what is indoor air and mostly what kind of indoor chemicals we may find in the indoor air. We may find several species and with a broad range of concentrations from the PPQ level to ppm level. ppm level we already measure with sensors carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide. But at PPQ levels, we have several families of semi-volatile compounds, specifically polychlorobiphenyls, flame retardants, pesticides, and phthalates. And in the middle, we have also a large amount of chemicals that are volatile organic compounds, carbon, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and we also have to add the particles. Particulate matter and also ultrafine particles, UFP. And among these species, we have a few parameters that are measured by AAQ sensors. Carbon dioxide, particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, and less frequent in indoor air quality sensors, carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and ozone. And speaking about volatile organic compounds, we currently lack specific measurement of specific volatile organic compounds. Most of the time we measured total volatile organic compounds. And if we look more closely at the variety of volatile organic compound indoors, we have a large variety with large amounts of VOCs indoors compared to outdoors. This is usually measured with classical measurements performed by offline air sampling through sorbing materials like activate carbon or polymers material. You have here an example of chromatogram that was measured in the bedroom and in the outdoor. And the black one is measured in the bedroom. You can see that each peak corresponds to a specific volatile organic compounds. So you have a large number of volatile organic compounds with larger peak areas corresponding to larger concentrations, compared to the red one which is measured outdoors. You see the difference at the concentration level and the loading of volatile organic compounds in the air. So most of the IAQ sensors measured total volatile organic compounds with also a definition of total volatile organic compounds that can change from sensor to sensor. So when looking at all this variety of volatile organic compounds, one could ask, what are the priority pollutants to measure? The priority pollutants are we look at the priority pollutants by performing ranking according to health hazards. So in 2019, the latest ranking performed ranked 109 chemicals with sufficient information to rank them. And among them, 86 were classified as very high priority pollutants. Most of them are volatile organic compounds and semi-volatile organic compounds. And we also, this was only about indoor chemicals, but we have also classified PM 2.5, of course, ultrafine particles, radon, and also carbon monoxide as health hazards. So among these chemicals, in red, you can see what are the chemicals that are measured by IAQ sensors. And so you can see that very few priority pollutants are measured by IAQ sensors right now. Nonetheless, even if the number of chemical pollutants are measured by sensors are very few compared to, for example, a national survey that is ongoing right now in dwellings, where we measure more than 170 pollutants. The IAQ sensors have their use, and their use is mostly to provide continuous measurement with short time steps to better understand indoor air variability. And because the indoor air variability is largely unknown to us in different types of indoor environments. And they also have their use because it's very easy to deploy them in occupied rooms without disturbing the occupants and their activities. And so we can measure we can come close to the real exposure of the occupants without disturbing them. And we can also use the data from indoor air quality sensors to provide additional information. Additional information, it means that we can use that data, for example, to extract automatic air exchange rate from CO2 continuous data, or estimate source strength emission rate by inverse modeling, and so on and so on. So we have a large set of available information that can provide us much more than only the concentration of chemicals indoors. But we still have to be aware of some limitations of the sensors right now. For example, for CO2 measurement, there was a time where some sensors provide equivalent concentration of CO2. And here you have three sensors that are measuring CO2. One, the blue one is with equivalent CO2, and the green one and the gray one are using infrared, non-dispersive infrared. You can see that there is a big variation, big difference between equivalent CO2 and infrared measurements from CO2. And when you look more closely at the response of the sensors with equivalent CO2, we can see that, you can see up there that the response of CO2 is highly, strongly correlated with TVOC. So in fact, the measurement of equivalent CO2 is comes with a large amount of interferences from VOCs. And so it's not a good measurement for CO2. So nowadays, most of the sensors use infrared, so I think quite no more provide equivalent CO2 concentration. So that is a good point. There are some sensors that provide also formaldehyde concentration, but still we must be aware of when looking at the response from formaldehyde and also response from TVOC, you can see a strong correlation also. And so this questions us about possible interferences occurring for the formaldehyde response. And so we have to check first the specificity of the sensors to see if it responds closely to formaldehyde or not. And last one is the TVOC measurements. There's a huge variability in TVOC measurements between IAQ sensors. This is caused by different sensor technology and different parameters used in the sensors, but also different referent VOC used for calculation of the concentration. It might be toluene, it might be isobutylene, it might be ethanol, and so on. So there is no set definition for TVOC used in the sensors. But what is interesting to note is that most of the sensors provide a similar dynamic, and this dynamic is quite useful to use afterwards. So absolute values are very difficult to interpret, but the dynamic can be used for can provide us some information. So what are the future expectations for IAQ sensors? So from a researcher point of view, first of all, we want to have harmonized TVOC measurements between sensors. We also would like to have more specific information on VOCs and also possible on semi-volatile organic compounds. And for that, we need also improvement in sensitivity in VOC measurements and SVOC measurements from a researcher point of view, down to the PPQ level, part per quadrillion. It's difficult, I know. And we also would like to have better measurements of ultrafine particles. So we have quite all IAQ sensors provide information on PM 2.5. Some provide information on PM1, but ultrafine particles remain out of the scope of the sensors right now. So we also would like to improve the use of IAQ sensor data to detect occurrence for specific events like occupancy, windows opening, activities involving combustion or solvent use, and that means all change in the indoor environment. We can do a lot with IAQ sensor data, not just information and concentration. We can also use the IAQ sensor data to help better characterize the key parameters that can be used as input to IAQ models. It could be the source emission rate, the air exchange rate, and also the deposition rate that are inputs that are needed for a better estimate of modeling indoors. And we could also, sorry, I kept the mask, so we could also combine other information to the IAQ sensor data and other data sets to better identify key variation factors in a given environment. That means source identification, process identification, maybe in real time. And my last slide about that. So from an end user point of view, we would like to have measure continuously relevant IAQ parameters. Not all parameters need continuous monitoring. And also provide a spatially and temporally relevant IAQ index, so aggregated information that can be used by the end user. It's not that easy, especially when we talk about spatial and temporal index. And because also most health guidelines are associated with long-term exposure. So giving an index every minute might not be useful from a health point of view. Provide also systematically time-weighted averages, could be hourly, daily, or weekly, to help understanding the data. And also try better to take into account occupancy to directly provide exposure data, not only concentration. One suggestion also was to separate comfort aspects, like immediate perception with indoor and environment quality parameters like thermal comfort, lighting, and noise conditions. Some sensors provide that is good. And else, so we should have different indexes from both because they are not the same use. Comfort is immediate, and else is more long-term. Try to avoid also notifications that might be too stressful for the end user. It might not understand the alarming aspect of some notifications. Normally we should not die on the spot if we exceed a health guideline. And also provide comparisons with levels found in similar indoor environments. That is, I think, the most useful for the end user. Not only to exceed specific guidelines, but also to compare himself with others in the same situation. So that's all my talk about indoor air quality sensors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramalho. It is the first time, that the indoor air category is awarded by the challenge. This prize is for indoor air all categories. So, Mr. Ramalho, you may now tell us who the winner is. You have the envelope, I guess?
Yeah,
okay.
It's right there. So, I open it. No, it's only one. So, for this edition, the edition 2021 of the challenge, of Microsensors Challenge, the prize for indoor air all categories is awarded to Etera Mini XT Basic Plus.
Congratulations to Etera. So I call on stage a representative of Etera, I don't know how to pronounce it, okay? Mr. Amel, okay, welcome. So, okay.
Congratulations.
Okay, so you can say a word, but just 1 minute because we are a little bit late.
Yeah, I'm very proud. I'm very proud. It's our first time, not the first time we go to the competition, but the first one we have a prize. It's a hard topic for manufacturers to understand the spirit. We always try to put performances. We were a little wrong on prices, on data management and so on. So this is a very overall competition for a lot of international competitors, but also for a lot of criteria. So thank you very much for that award and the competition.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hamel. So thank you, Mr. Ramalho. Thank you. So we are going to continue with the category do-it-yourself. So the category deals with sensor to build by oneself. I call on stage Nathalie Redon, Associate Professor at Institut Mines Télécom Nord Europe in France, for a 10-minute speech.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So thank you to AIRLAB organization for having invited me for this workshop. So for those who don't know me, I'm a researcher at IMT Nord Europe, and I'm working on the development on air quality sensors based on sensitive layers made with conducting polymers. And I also work in the French National Laboratory for Air Quality Monitoring on different metrological protocols to qualify air quality sensors. So this morning, the presentation focused on do-it-yourself air quality sensor. And the question is it an easy or a tricky solution to democratize the air quality monitoring? The question is, what do you really expect when you buy a do-it-yourself item? What motivates us? Most of the time, the price is the trigger. It has to be the cost has to be much better compared to the equivalent ready-made equipment available on the market. Secondly, its assembly must be within a reach very easy and quickly to its assembly, precisely because we are not professionals, or people who buy this are not professional. And finally, if you have fun when you assemble your item, you have won. You have won everything. So most of the time, the end customer of such items are individual. But there is, a major risk to buy such items, and the major risk is the gap between what you expected and the reality of the achieved object. There can be some disappointment. So the question is, do we observe the same priorities and the same risk with regard to the do-it-yourself air quality sensors? So first of all, there are dozens of dye sensor systems on the market. The list I propose here is not at all exhaustive, but I think it's representative of the options available on the market. So one of the most famous do-it-yourself sensor is a Luftdaten. It's really cheap, with a limited cost of 50 euros. But it's limited to the measurement of particles. Its great strength is to offer a collaborative platform with an online server where all Luftdaten users data is collected. But it can raise to the question of data security. Acker is a second example. There is two systems, and it's quite similar to Luftdaten at any point of view. Cost, the sensitive items, there is a platform online, etc. We also find the sensor box, which offers an indoor air quality index measurements based on Vox sensor, only one Vox sensor. And but the price is double from the previous one. You've got an example with Pimorini, who propose a single sensor system for CO, NO2, ammonia measurements, at the same price as Luftdaten, but with only one MOX sensor, with all the drawbacks we know. Another example is mechatronics. There is a lot of manufacturers that propose Arduino-like project. Here we've got 4 different sensors with a larger diversity of the species targeted. And the system includes its own visualization system and no online servers. But the price is much higher than the previous one, with a price around 250 euro. And finally, I chose an example with a multi-sensor system as the Wasmut of Libelium, which propose a wide choice of sensors, but the price is very high, per than 1,000 euro in the best case. But as all the pieces are delivered separately with no interface software, it is considered also as a die system. So, from the price point of view, yes, die sensors meet the first objective, with most of the time an unbeatable price compared to plug-and-play multi-sensor system. But we quickly realize that this price depends on multiple factors. The first factor is the number of parameters on sensors. The price is about, and it's 50 euro per parameter. It depends also on the nature of the sensitive element. Optical is higher than chemical, which is higher than MOX sensors. It depends on the presence or not of a display interface. Is there a box? What is the type of the power supply? What is the type of communication? How the data is stored online or not, and so on. Now, if we have to see if the die sensor meets the second objective of a do-it-yourself item. Is it really easy to build one? To answer this question, we have to see what can really be found in a do-it-yourself air quality sensors box. So, okay, most of the time we found electronic components, processor cards, analog to digital converter, PCB cards, sensors, capacitor, resistance, transistors, wires, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth card, SD cards, maybe there is display, keyboard, user interface, etc. Sometimes, not always, you find material to make a box with your do-it-yourself sensors. There is a lot of assembly instructions. We don't lack of technical instruction. There is a lot of video tutorial, too much sometimes. But you are not alone with your item. And you can find also links to upload software, code, many things. But does it mean, so most of the time the list is complete and there is no shortage of assembly instruction, but does it mean that it is really easy to beat it? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure because given the diversity of the items that have to be assembled, it is obvious that we will have to deploy a wide number of varied skills. We need skills in electronics. It's not so easy to manipulate wire, to solder component, to read the real value of the component, and you have to be very comfortable with the handling associated to such domain. You also need skills in mechanical, because sometimes you have to build your own box. So maybe you have to make a 3D design, and if you know a fab lab, or if you belong to a fab lab, it's better. You need also basic to know some basic scientific concept. What is the unit of measurements you will have? What is the physical phenomena related to the gas or particles detection, and so on. And finally, you need skills in computing, because most of the time you have to develop your own code for the data treatment, for the data acquisition. So, as for me, Is it really easy to build an air quality sensor? No. So I put it in red in my list. So if you conduct a survey of dye sensor users, they usually tell you that there is still a gap between their expectation and the results they obtain when they manage to get it. So we can ask ourselves, does the process help the individual to better understand air quality, or does the process is more adapted to individual or professional end users? Well, maybe the last point can answer our question. If you have fun, if you had fun to assemble your item, and if you manage to assemble it, then even though there is difficulties, there are still clearly positive effects, especially if you had fun during the building process. You can improve your global scientific skills. You improve your knowledge of air quality by identifying the differences of pollution, and you can adapt your behavior to what you observe. And also, you improve your ability to disseminate relevant information. But there's also drawbacks. If you do not manage to realize your own sensor box, there is weakness. Maybe it makes air quality even more darker. Science could be assimilated to a gadget, and there is a risk to disseminate false information. So maybe the final users of such tools should be a professional. So to conclude, as for me, the big weak point of this tool is their difficulty of implementation. It is too complicated for the general public. But the deployment of such tools require professional supervision, and maybe ASCA and FabLab could help on these topics. However, there are good educational tools for children and students, and it's also a good way of participatory with citizen dialogue tools. It's also helped to improve their knowledge in air quality. But the question of confidence in the data quality is still to be evaluated and discussed, I think, in future challenge. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Rodon. Thank you very much. So before calling, Hélène de Villers, I have a communication of the challenge jury to deliver to you. So the jury was not able to award a microsensor, any microsensor in this category, sorry. This is due to a series of technical challenges faced when trying to evaluate the platforms that highlighted the limits of the existing evaluation protocol. As such, the Challenge Consortium is working on adapting the methodology in order to provide a fair evaluation in the future of this type of platforms. So now I call by Teams remotely Hélène de Villers, who is the director of Atmo Hauts-de-France, the air quality observatory of the region Hauts-de-France in France, which made the outdoor air sensor evaluation for the challenge. So I give you 10 minutes, Mrs. de Villers. Are you with us? Yes?
Okay. So air pollution has become a topic of great concern. Citizens and local authorities now expect air quality experts to provide them more abundant and more specific information than in the recent past. Despite this increasing demand, Changing one's own personal behavior to improve air quality is often perceived as being too difficult or even pointless. Many people have misconceptions about which emission sources contribute the most to air pollution. They believe that their own individual actions and choices have little impact on air quality. Atmo Hauts-de-France and its innovation lab ERICA have therefore integrated social and technological innovation into their long-term plan to foster change in people's habits, with the goal of improving air quality. A small step for everyone kind of strategy seems indeed necessary. One of the first steps of such a strategy is to give everyone the ability to measure air quality themselves, so that air pollution becomes a more tangible and tractable problem to tackle. This participatory approach can be particularly attractive to teenagers and young adults who tend to be tech-savvy. It can foster awareness of air pollution problems and trigger action by individuals to improve air quality. Based on this observation, ERICA and Canopé, a startup headquartered in Lille that specializes in Internet of Things, have decided to join forces to help high school students create their own air quality monitoring network. This program is sponsored by the Health Regional Agency and the Conseil Régional des Hauts-de-France. Throughout a multidisciplinary approach, it aims to help students learn a variety of subjects and skills, including building their own air quality sensors, monitoring air quality in and around their schools, and proposing ways to improve air quality throughout behavioral changes. This program, called Do-It-Yourself Lycée, aims to create a toolkit that high school teachers can rely on to build a course based on the study of air quality. This toolkit contains a do-it-yourself air quality sensor assembly kit, a web-based interface to visualize the data measured by the sensor, a shared electronic library of documents, a guidebook to teach the basics of air quality science to high school educators, survey forms that can be used to evaluate how the students' understanding of air quality problems change throughout the course. To date, this program has been tested with 3 different high schools. Feedback collected so far indicates that students show great interest for the toolkit, teachers need more help from air quality and sensor experts to create the content of their sensor-based course. Consequently, the non-profit organization RMI Hauts-de-France, in collaboration with ERICA, the Health Regional Agency and the Conseil Régional des Hauts-de-France, just launched a new program named Learning. This program aims to provide this sensor assembly kit ready-to-use course material that educators can use as it to teach air quality courses. This program will help students prepare for the baccalaureate oral exam by making them create a science-based strategy to improve air quality. It will also provide forms and propose methods to collect feedback about the course from students. To finish my point, 3 design aspects of the microsensor seem essential for this program to be successful. The microsensors must be sufficiently easy to assemble so that all students can build them without prior knowledge in electronics or other fields. They must be affordable, and they must be able to resist being disassembled and reassembled many times. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Mrs. De Villers. So we are going to continue with the microsensor for citizen measurements. The category consists in portable microsensor, allowing the largest citizen air quality awareness. To speak about this subject, I call by teams Vincent Dupuis, who is the teacher researcher at the University Paris Pierre and Marie Curie, and Dean QE2 member for a 10-minute speech. Are you with us, Vincent? Vincent Dupuis? Yes, it's coming, I guess. Vincent, do you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, it's okay? Okay.
It should be okay in a few seconds. Tac. Tac. Can you hear me? Do you see my screen?
Yes, I hear you, Vincent. And your presentation is coming, I guess.
Do you see the presentation?
Not yet, but I guess it's charging.
Okay.
It's not on the screen yet. Otherwise, I can try to.
On n'a pas sa présentation dans Teams.
Okay. So maybe I can try to launch your presentation from here.
And
ça y est, on l'a.
And then we hear you, so you can comment it. What do you think? It's
can you
coming.
see the
Yeah,
screen now?
it's here. Okay, it's working. Okay.
Okay. Well, sorry for that. Thank you for the invitation to present this talk about air quality microsensor and participatory research. So I'm Vincent Dupuis. I'm a physicist at Sorbonne University, and I happen to be also the founder of Fab Lab Sorbonne University, where we have machines and prototyping equipment to play with sensor. And I'm also part of a group of researchers named Air Citizen who is interested in the use of this microsensor for participatory research and air quality assessment. So participatory research, citizen science, we heard the word. So these words are often used quite vaguely. We hear about participatory research, citizen science, participatory sensing, street science, backyard science. That it's a little bit confusing. To be clear for me, as a researcher involved in that field, participatory research is the production of knowledge involving citizens and non-scientist citizens. So you can find a lot of paper, academic literature about that. I like this chart with figure by Ackley. So you can see that this citizen science or participatory research depends on the level of involvement of the participants. So at the bottom you have the citizens as sensor. So you give, for instance, a sensor to someone, and the sensor and the person just make measurement and you collect the measurements. So it's very low engagement of the participant. And then you can go to a higher level. You can work with the citizens and do a measurement interpretation, or you can even go to protocol definition and real collaboration between the researcher and the participants. Mostly what we observe right now in participatory research is really crowdsourcing and maybe some kind of interpretation. It's mainly developed in natural sciences. I mean, observers of biodiversity. For that, you don't need sensor, but it's the same. And well, it can be a good idea to try to do that kind of science with air quality sensor. For that, you can use microsensor, but of course, not all microsensors are suitable for citizen science or participatory research. Microsensors are indeed, as we saw, not necessarily low cost. It can be quite costly, actually. You can see a chart here with the cost. I took the numbers from this edition, challenge edition, and even in the citizen air category for awareness and exposure, the sensors are not as cheap as the do-it-yourself sensor, for instance. And for this participatory research, we really need many low-cost microsensors, and we also need it. It was already said, accuracy assessment. For instance, with the challenge of this year, but also there are many comparison campaigns like the one done by HCSK, JRC, or AQSpec, and this is really important. So if the commercial sensors are too expensive, you can try to build one. It's not so difficult. Well, okay, I created the Fab Lab at Sorbonne University, but it's not so difficult to do that. Actually, you learn to do that in technology classes in high school. So it's if kids can do it, probably anyone can do it. You can just buy some sensor. So here I just show you, it's not complete list, but you can see really the real sensor, the sensing elements, and you can buy them from a few euros up to well, maybe some €100 for the gas sensor. And actually that's also a problem, the cost of gas sensor. And mostly many do-it-yourself sensors, as was already said, are using particle dust sensor, PM sensor, which are extremely cheap. I mean, you can buy the sensor for €10 or €15. It's so you add some cables, some card, and you can build a sensor for really something like €50. So it was mentioned this very nice project that is quite important right now, the Luftdaten project. So you can find the documentation and build your sensor, your PM sensor for €50. Many people do that, and the first thing you do after building your sensor is posting a picture of your sensor, and you can see that the environments in which the sensors are put in are very different, and that's the problem. So you can see that there are many sensors in the world, mostly in Europe, and this is okay. This is very nice. You have lots of data, especially for Central Europe at country scale. This is not yet high resolution, for instance, at city or district scale. And the problem is you don't know anything except that you have a sensor at some given place. And as it was already said, this can pose some privacy problem and all that. So a lot of data, but to me, looking at the literature, the academic literature, a lot of data, but to me, not many attempts to compare these data with other data, like satellite data, integrate the data in models and all that. So many data, but we still don't really know what to do about that. So this is the easy case. You just build your own sensor. You can have some help from Fab Labs, whatever. You can do it together with other groups, and this can be really fun. And you see that yeah, this project is very successful. This is easy because you just push data to a server and you do nothing else. So anyone can do it. If you want to go beyond that, and if you want to deal with exposure, for instance, you need mobile sensor to estimate this exposure to air pollution. So it's possible, in theory it's possible. You have a mini computer in your pocket, a smartphone with a GPS position, internet. You can do even AI calculation. It's quite fantastic. And you have low cost sensing elements and electronics. So in principle, and it is the case, you can make a commercial or do-it-yourself mobile sensor with a cost below 300 euros. You can find those ones are pretty nice. This one is even nicer to me because it's open hardware, and so you can buy it or you can make it. You have all the information to do that, and you can do your own sensor, and this is what we did frequently with Air Citizen. So mobile measurements are very interesting, but to really interpret the signal, which are rather complex, you really need good time resolution. For now, it's about 1 second, but you really need, I think, at least to divide this time by 10 or more. And you need low noise. I mean, if you use this kind of sensor and you go on the streets and you just expect some signal from a car passing in front of you, well, this signal will be completely lost in the noise. So it's very complex. Even for static measurement, for walks, maybe for bikes and car, really, I don't believe you can do something with this. Just very quickly, because time is running. I want you to show you a few slides of an example study of air quality assessed by citizens in Paris. This is the project Respirons mieux dans le 20e that took place during 1 year. We did that. Actually, it was a project proposed by the citizens and funded by the city of Paris, proposed by the citizens of the 20e arrondissement, involving Airparif, the city of Paris citizens, and we, with Air Citizen, we joined the project after the beginning, the design. So the project consisted in 10 mini stations measuring NO2 and PM in the 20e arrondissement, and 70 microsensors, indoor and outdoor, given to participants, and a sociological analysis of the citizen habits and perception. So about 150 participants participating in this project. They were given a sensor for 2 months, 4 sequences during 1 year, in outdoor and indoor sensor, and we tried to introduce some participatory science in there by creating notebooks and providing some help to the participants and discussing with them and all that. So this is typically what the places where the participant measured. So you can see a lot of measurements, mostly in the 20e arrondissement. And this is typical result that we collected during what we call collective measurement, because if you have one sensor, you can always be critical and say, well, okay, you cannot trust the value, and generally you cannot trust the value. But if you do some work with participants with many sensors, more than 10 actually, you can see here for 2 dates the contrast in the PM concentration measure, and well, you have a spatial coherence, and you have real contrast, and this is information actually. This is not well, this is not noise. This is really information. And well, you can do this, and this also the advice we gave to the participants. You can do measurement on systematic measurement on the same itinerary, and again you find contrasts. And it's even better when you ask the participant to provide metadata, to provide contextual information about their itinerary, and then you can, in a sense, you can characterize the microenvironments that the participant explored during their work. So they did also a lot of measurements indoors, because we spend most of our time indoors. They experienced cooking, smoking, all that. You can see peaks, and this was quite informative for them. Actually, they didn't know that there were so many particles in their kitchen. So this was cool. I will skip. And just to finish, because time is up, we believe that participatory research with air quality microsensor can potentially provide information. For that, we need good sensor. It's not completely the case right now. It's not easy to work with non-scientists, but it is, well, to my opinion, quite rewarding. And the consequence of that is that it's very efficient for raising public awareness about air quality. You can find the presentation on our website, and this is, well, some picture of what we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vincent. Also remotely, I call by Teams Nuria Castel. She's senior scientist at NILU in Norway. She's going to share with us its point of view regarding the microsensor for citizen measurements. Are you with us, Nuria?
Hi, yes, I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm going to try to share now my presentation.
It's coming, I guess.
Maybe...
We hear you perfectly.
Do you see, this is kind of a little bit different from what I expected, but do you see the full screen?
Sorry, can you repeat, please?
Okay, let me see if do you see my screen?
We still didn't see your presentation, but I guess it's coming. It takes a few seconds. Okay. No, no. This is not your presentation yet. Okay. This is yours. Okay. Go on.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this invitation. I will talk a little bit on assessing air quality through citizen science and the experiences we had here in Norway. I'm leading this sensor technology and society group at NILU, where we have been working with sensors and citizens observatories since 2012. And our main work is related to sensor characterization and IoT deployment of sensors, but also on the co-creation and engagement of citizens in the process of improving air quality in our cities. We are members of the European Citizen Science Association, where we have a working group on air quality, and I invite you all also to register yourself there and contribute to the community. As has been mentioned before during this conference and workshop, characterization of the sensor systems is very important. These are some pictures of the reference stations in Oslo and in Bergen, here in Norway, where we characterize different sensor systems to be deployed in the city, some by the municipalities, but also the ones that we want citizens to be using, because it's important, and has been mentioned before, that citizens don't get discouraged by bad data, but when they are engaging with us, they can make use of the data. But we have also observed that selecting the sensor, it's not only our only problem, but also it is very important that we provide a data infrastructure that is able to collect, analyze, and provide data quality to the sensor networks in real time. So we have developed this sensor data infrastructure that facilitates the practical uptake of this technology by allowing sensors from different manufacturers to be there, including also do-it-yourself sensors by citizens to be there, benefit from quality control and calibration algorithms, and then also fuse this data with other existing models and data, like satellite data, air quality models, reference stations, to provide larger data quality and also services to the citizens. This platform has a dashboard that can be used also from municipalities, but also a simplified dashboard that can be used for the citizens, so they can easily plot their data or see the data from other sensors in their neighborhood. So, sorry. Currently in Norway, we have deployed these sensor networks with involvement of citizens in different cities, and we are also working in other international projects where citizens have been invited to monitor air pollution in Denmark, in Sweden, in Poland, and Finland, and Sweden, for example. This is some pictures of the sensor deployment, in this case by the municipalities, and also in the schools and public transport system. And it's important that this data also goes back to the citizens. This is an example of Oslo, of the current sensors that we have deployed there. You can see the black squares are reference stations, and the circle are sensors that we have deployed in the city. Some of them, as I said, are in the city infrastructure, like public buildings like schools or the city bikes or the bus stops. But some of them are deployed in private houses, engaging the citizens also to participate in this citizens observatory. And in the next year, we will also be engaging more citizens with hosting a sensor in their house, or also mounting a sensor on their bikes and cycle around. So the type of sensors we are using on citizen science are a little bit different from the sensors that we use when it's the municipality purchasing the sensors, because as it has said before, they need to have comply with different characteristics, like a lower price, and also like how they can be mounted on private houses. So we, when we engage with citizens, we are trying to use plug and play sensors, like the ones you can see in the pictures here, because we want to engage not only with people that is very guided by technology, and but also with people that is not attracted on technology and won't like to build their own sensor. So we have this more plug and play, but still in the lower range of cost sensors that citizens can acquire. But also we still use also like do-it-yourself sensors. We think this is really great to engage, especially with young population. And we work with high schools where they have technology as one of the subjects, and then we provide some basic guidelines on how to build a sensor, but we leave a lot of room for creativity to the students. So they, for example, we use the Nova PM sensor, but some of the students also got other CO2 sensor or extra sensors, design systems for lighting depending on the air quality. As you can see, some of the students designed cases using Legos, while others designed cases using 3D printers and a fan that was going turn on when the pollution was high. So this show us that it's really great on awareness raising and knowledge building for the students. At NILU, we use the data collected by the citizens. This is the results of static sensors mounted on citizens' houses. Here, together with the municipality, we decided to focus on some neighborhoods where there was no reference station, and the municipality thought that the citizens might experience high pollution levels. Then we did a call for participation, and we installed around 23 sensors at citizens' houses. And you can see here what we did was to merge the data collected by the citizens with data from an air quality model that is run operative for the meteorological office in Norway. And we could see here in the picture on the left, you can see the air quality model and the data from the sensors. You can see that the air quality model is not predicting the high levels that is measuring in this area during the afternoon, while when we fuse the data of the sensors and the air quality model, we can give a larger, better information. And this is, the sensors allow us to capture an episode of using wood for house heating that is very common in Norway during the winter. But the reference station is located in a traffic area, so it cannot see this air pollution in this neighborhood. So we also, in Finland, this is in Lappeenranta in Finland, we used sensors mounted on bicycles to collect air quality. This is the data from 1 month of data from six citizens that use regularly the bicycle. And you can see here the amount of data they have been collected. And this data can then be also merged with air quality models and provide us with better information at meters of resolution. This is probably not what in the scope of the talk today, but because engaging citizens is creating awareness, we also designed these no-tech sensors using paper and Vaseline, and engage young students for the 4th grade, 9 years old, in also monitor air pollution in their cities. So this is technology, or not tech technology. It's available for everyone to use. And last but not least, when we engage citizens, we need to think also on the citizens that do not care so much about air pollution. And here we were working with the Oslo Met Design Office with students in how to communicate the data to the citizens, and they come up with some very interesting art interactions in the city where data from sensors could be displayed. So all the citizens that were working in the city could learn and see the air quality monitored by their neighbors. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Noya. So in order to remotely give the prize for the microsensor for citizen measurement category, I called by Teams Nadine Duezo. She is the head of the air quality department at ADEME, the French Agency for Environment. So are you with us, Nadine?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Maybe we could see larger on the screen?
Yeah, I will share my screen for the presentation.
Okay, so you have a presentation? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we are a little bit late, so so I ask for the speakers to be concise.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we see your presentation. Go on.
Yeah. So thank you for inviting me, and sorry not to be able to be with you today. Among ADEM's mission to improve air quality, we have the information, raising awareness and mobilization of the general public. And it's a real challenge to achieve a sustainable behavior change on such important questions such as how to improve indoor air quality, or how to make a wood fire without emitting too many pollutants, or how to change your mobility habits. So 5 years ago, we conducted a study with the aim to increase knowledge on the links between individual air quality data and behavior change, and the role of microsensors on this process. So I just would like to share with you 2 main conclusions of this study. The first one is that access to personalized data undoubtedly has a strong potential to improve awareness of polluting practices. It helps to identify pollution sources. It helps also to have alerts in case of pollutant emissions, to increase skills and to better understand the issues involved. And the second main conclusion was that coupled with visualization or sharing tools, the microsensor also becomes an important element of citizen-to-citizen communication and a driver for the implementation of collective actions. So based on these results, the year after, we launched a call for research projects to implement sensors in different conditions. Only one of these projects is finished, and the result has been published, only in French. But the main conclusion of the preliminary conclusions of these projects are that the sensor should be seen as a tool within a wider strategy and not as the sole trigger for change. A problem exists when you can measure it, but revealing the problem is not enough to act. You have to know what to do, and you also have to be able to check the effectiveness of your actions. So really one of the key conclusions of this project is that the human support is absolutely necessary to provide upstream knowledge on air pollution, effects of pollution, metrology, or public policies in favor of air quality. It's also necessary to give a personalized feedback on measurement results, and we really see that the consequences on change behavior are really different with or without this personalized feedback. It's also very important to have recommendations for concrete and accessible actions, and they are accessible if they are easy from an economic, psychological, or technical point of view. And then the different experiments also highlight that a program of activities and exchange on practices is welcome. Emulation, challenge, or game are key elements for behavior change. But if we want to have a long-lasting behavior change, citizens must also have the means to verify the effectiveness of their actions, and sensors still continue to play a role with this. And if not, they may abandon the practices they have adopted.
Nadine, excuse me, we are still on your first slide, so I don't know if you changed the slide or not.
Sorry, I changed it, but it seems you didn't see them. So, well, I have finished, so it's too late for the slide. Maybe they will be available for the attendance after the meeting. The last point I wanted to highlight was that of course, the measurement tools must be reliable. We had several bad experiments where some sensors did not indicate the same value, identical sensors did not indicate the same value, or a sensor showing an unchanged value, even so the users move to more or less polluted place. So it's really important to have reliable tools, if not this experience can generate a feeling of frustration or disengagement. So in this context, we really thank the AIRLAB challenge for evaluating the performance of sensors. So sorry for you who you weren't able to see the presentation, and now even if I haven't got an envelope not being with you, but I will be very proud to announce that the winner for the Citizen Air category is Magnashi URAD Monitor Air, and I do hope I pronounced it correctly.
Okay.
So congratulations.
Okay, thank you, Nadine. So I'm trying to see if there is a representative of Magnassi company on Teams. Maybe Mr. Motizan? No? Radu Motizan? I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. Okay, so if there is no answer, I'm going to go on. So we are going to speak about outdoor air. So the outdoor air the outdoor air category deals with ambient microsensors. 2 subcategories will be awarded today: the outdoor air monitoring and the outdoor air awareness. Rachel Duval, she's the environmental engineer at the US EPA. She has recorded for us a 10-minute presentation that I'm going to launch.
Hi, my name is Rochelle Duval, and I am with the U.S. Environmental community and common applications. I'll go through major takeaways about air sensors. I'll also talk about evaluating performance of air sensors, and I'll wrap up with an example of an outdoor air quality monitoring application, and also some resources. So as an introduction to air sensors, generally when talking about air sensors, we are talking about devices that are smaller, lower in cost, more portable, and easier to use than regulatory monitoring instruments, which we call in the U.S. Federal Reference and Equivalent Method instruments. Typically, sensors demonstrate highly variable data quality. We know that sensors for some pollutants show consistent performance while others do not. And also sensors are not as accurate as regulatory monitoring data, and they often need data cleaning and correction procedures. In the U.S., we've decided that sensors are not appropriate for regulatory grade monitoring, but they may be useful for non-regulatory applications. This slide just summarizes some of the current user community as well as common applications of sensors, and there's a broad user community for sensors from non-technical to highly technical backgrounds. And there's also many different applications as well. Just some examples here looking at air quality trends, short-term and long-term, supplemental monitoring, different educational types of activities, and citizen science. So again, a number of applications. We continue to see these grow and expand as time goes on. So some major takeaways about air sensors. Air sensors typically return real-time data at fairly high time resolution. So we're talking about every minute. So as you can imagine, there are large volumes of data that are being collected. Unlike regulatory instruments, sensors often do not have status indicators or quality control procedures to help understand how a sensor is performing over time or if there's any issues that are happening during a sampling period. We also know that sensor lifespans are still unknown, and some can lose sensitivity over time. So for example, estimated particulate matter sensor lifespans range from 3 to 5 years. Estimated gas sensor lifespans are about 6 months to 2 years. Sometimes sensors can fail out of the box. So again, it's highly variable, still pretty much unknown. These are just estimates again. There are also short-term spikes, spurious data, and baseline shifts that can occur. And typically, there's a need to average the data or implement data cleaning procedures to improve data quality. So just looking first at gas sensors, some of the major takeaways with these. And first I want to point out at the bottom of the slide, 2 of the common measurement approaches. So there are electrochemical sensors and metal oxide sensors. And each of these have their pros and cons and different way that they operate. But those are the most common approaches that are seen today. And the availability, accuracy, and reliability of gas sensors varies by pollutant. For ozone, we see these are widely available. They tend to be fairly accurate and pretty reliable with co-location. With nitrogen dioxide, there are fewer options available. We do see that there's highly variable performance and also some strong cross-sensitivities to certain pollutants like ozone. For carbon monoxide, there are much less options available, but they tend to show good accuracy and they're fairly reliable. For sulfur dioxide, the options are more limited. These tend to have very highly variable performance and also strong cross-sensitivities, especially to meteorology, temperature, relative humidity, what have you. For total volatile organic compounds, this is primarily a non-speciated measurement, so it doesn't give you specific VOC compounds like benzene, for example, and these sensors tend to have high detection limits. But those are some main takeaways about gas sensors. Moving on to the major takeaways about PM2.5 air sensors. These are definitely more widespread and we generally have more knowledge about the PM sensors. And most particulate matter sensors use an optical detection approach. So with this particular approach, a small range of particle sizes is observed. And generally, these sensors do not do a good job of measuring particles smaller than 0.5 micron or larger than 2.5 microns. There are also assumptions that are made to convert the particle light that's scattered into an estimated mass concentration, the microgram per meter cube, for example. Also, mass scattering efficiency can vary by the size of the particle and also the composition of a particle. And it could also vary by moisture as well. So additional takeaways about PM2.5 sensors is that they typically track the ups and downs of PM2.5, and this is simultaneously with regulatory monitoring data. However, we do see that the absolute concentrations can be biased high or low. There's also wide variation in precision, and that's the agreement between sensors of the same make and model. You can see some examples here of good precision and more variable precision among the same sensors. And in these cases, data corrections may be needed to make that data more comparable. So we also see that PM2.5 sensors, many of these use identical internal sensor components, but how those sensors are packaged can lead to differences in data quality. Just some examples, sensor orientation and housing can influence the results. A lot of these, actually all of these, they tend to rely on some type of mathematical approach to convert the optical signal into some type of mass concentration. And these approaches can be different from sensor to sensor. Some of these sensors can incorporate onboard sensors like temperature, relative humidity, and use that data to adjust the PM2.5 data. Some of those adjustments can occur on the server, so that can all impact data quality. Additionally, typically in the US and many other places as well, when comparing the sensor measurements to regulatory measurements, it's a common approach that's used, but a linear correction is often used, and this may be suitable at lower ambient concentrations. But as the concentrations change, maybe PM concentrations get higher, that relationship between the sensor and the regulatory measurement can change. Also, when you have shifts in aerosol properties, so for example, during dust storms, this can change the relationship again of the sensor to reference measurements. And in these types of cases, a linear relationship or linear correction may not be appropriate. So moving on to evaluating the performance of air sensors. For outdoor applications of sensors, we see a number of performance evaluations being conducted, and many organizations do this under ambient field conditions and controlled laboratory conditions. So some example organizations, AQ-Spec, EPA does evaluations, JRC, and obviously AIRLAB does this as well. We're also seeing that performance testing protocols are being developed, and these are helping to provide consistency in evaluations and also helping users understand the quality of the data. So just some examples here, US EPA recently published some performance testing protocols, metrics, and target values for ozone and PM2.5, and have additional testing protocols under development for other pollutants, as well as ASTM and the European Union Working Group 42 are also working on developing testing protocols. Those are under development, but those are forthcoming as well. And lastly, I want to finish off with an example of outdoor air quality monitoring application. This is based on EPA's work with the purple air sensors, and in the US, wildfires are a really big problem, and supplemental data are really important, especially in rural areas, which may not have as many monitors. So sensors can add information here where it's really, really needed the most. And the purple air sensors are very popular and widely used by the public. The data is available in the US, also worldwide. It's used all over. And in our evaluations, we saw that the raw data was often biased high. It's reading higher than the regulatory monitoring data. There were also several conversions that were available on the purple air map, but there was confusion about which one to use or which one to use for different concentration ratings in areas. So we did some field testing of the purple air sensors. We co-located these with regulatory monitors across the country. So we looked at different climates, different relative humidity temperatures, different PM conditions, high levels, specifically high levels of PM, for example, in smoke-impacted areas and what have you. And you can see some of the results of that work in the publication links on this slide. This work led to the development of an extended US-wide correction for purple air data. And this is a single model that was developed for all crowdsourced data across the US. You can see the concentration here. We developed this for both a low concentration and higher concentration areas as well. I'm just going to skip through this in interest of time. Just talking a little bit more about that correction factor. But what this showed, this work to develop the correction factor and demonstrating more comparability of the sensor to the regulatory monitor. And now these sensors are displayed along the regulatory monitors on the AirNow Fire and Smoke map, which provides information on air quality during wildfires. So this has really expanded the information that's available and is using sensors in a non-regulatory fashion, but helping to provide that important information to the public. And this is just one of many examples of how sensors have been used, and probably many more to come in the future. And with that, I'll leave you with some resources here. If interested, also my contact information if you have any questions. And I would like to thank you all for listening, and I'm wishing you all a great workshop. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Duval. The sound was not perfect, unless it was my English, which was not so good. Good enough. We are going to continue with Karine de Frémont, who is the director of the Urban Transition and Mobility at AFD, which is the French Agency for Development. So are you with us, Karine?
Yes, are you listening to me?
Yes, we hear you. Just
because it seems that the camera doesn't function. It's not okay.
Okay, so you may now tell us who the winner is for the outdoor air monitoring category. You have the envelope?
I have it. Absolutely.
Good.
Good morning all. It is a great honor for the Agence Française de Développement and for me, who head the department in charge of urban development and mobility, to be part of this international Microsensors challenge. As you might know, the French Development Agency implements France policy on international development and solidarity, contributing to the commitment of France to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as the Paris Agreement on Climate. Our teams are at work on more than 5,000 projects in the field, in the French Overseas Department and territories, and in more than 100 countries of the Global South. We finance governments, cities, public and private operators in various sectors, such as water, energy, transport, urban development, health, or education. To fix ideas, in 2020, AFD Group approved about 12 billion euros, despite the COVID-19 crisis. In this context, more than ever, ensuring healthy air has become a priority. At AFD, we are determined to build on this momentum to move forwards and accompany our partners to build a sustainable trajectory. Indeed, in the countries where we are working, air pollution issue is becoming more and more critical. Despite positive shifts in the cities that have started to act, overall, the phenomenon is worsening. Asia is the most affected continent, and Africa is experiencing a significant deterioration of its air quality. Nowadays, air pollution is the biggest environmental risk for early deaths. In New Delhi, for example, life expectancy is reduced by 6 years due to the bad air quality. Beyond health issues, air quality is also an issue for countries or cities where attractiveness is decreasing for investors. Logically, the concern of national and local authorities is then growing, and at the French Development Agency we are strongly committed to raise awareness of authorities and societies to help them to monitor and get reliable data, to strengthen capacities of local actors, and of course, to finance projects and long-term policies able to reduce pollution. In particular, monitoring is key, especially in developing countries where there is an important lack of data. Monitoring means actually getting reliable data to build real public policies on air pollution. To reach these goals, our group needed to forge partnerships with the air quality community. In 2019, we had the pleasure to sign a 2-year partnership agreement with Airparif with the ambition to promote the most adequate and best performing devices to our foreign partners. Their expertise is determining. The technological innovations of recent years have allowed a proliferation of microsensors, which are enjoying growing success at a time when concern about the health impact of pollution air keep increasing. Indeed, those small measurement tools are rather cheap, innovative, and then attractive for countries with financial constraints. In this context, the International Microsensors Challenge, organized by Airparif and its Open Innovation Laboratory AIRLAB, is a great opportunity for decision makers, and we will pay special attention to the results of this edition. Thus, I am very proud, in the name of the French Development Agency, to announce the name of the winners of the Outdoor Air Award. So I have 2 winners. The first one for the Outdoor Air Monitoring Award is Etera Nemo Extérieur Microsensor.
So I call again representative of ETERA, Mr. Hamel, maybe? I give you your second prize today. It's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. No more words. I'm really happy. I'm really proud. Thank you very much, sure.
Okay, thank you.
And congratulations to ETERA's team who work a lot for that. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Karine, and for the second prize?
Yes, the second prize for the Outdoor Air Awareness Award, I hope I will pronounce properly, is Magnassi Smoggy Microsensor.
Okay, the second prize this morning for Magnassi. So I try again to see if Mr. Motizan is with us through Teams. No? No. Okay. So let's continue. I think he didn't expect to win any prize today. Okay, so let's go with the best performances per pollutants. The best performances per pollutants prices aims at awarding the best microsensors per pollutants showing the best accuracy. So 6 awards will be given today for NO2, PM2.5 outdoor air, PM2.5 indoor air, ozone, CO2, and VOCs. So I call on stage Adrien Arfir, who is the meteorologist engineer at Airparif and project leader of the challenge for the 3 editions, for a presentation on the global results of the challenge. And really, I ask you to applaud him, because it's a tough job to lead this international project.
Thank you. Thank you very much for participating, either here or remotely. Thank you, Arnaud. All right, so I'll try to keep this short because we're a bit late. So I'll keep it short and hopefully clear. So this year's edition actually means more than 1 year of work from the time when we started building the committee and until today. And actually the project won't end today, because as you can see, we'll still have one final consortium meeting to discuss all we've learned and how to move on towards the next edition. To give you a few numbers, so well, some of them you've already heard, so 20 steering committee partners. In terms of the operational team, there were 20 project team members at Airparif and 5 at Atmode France. This resulted in more than 300 work days, more than 1,500 emails, and this is just in my own inbox. And yeah, a budget of 100K. In terms of the volume that this generated in our database, so we had more than almost 200 devices, including the reference measurements, that generated 934 time series and more than 60, oh, yeah. I guess this will be better. And more than 76 million data points. So some highlights from this edition. The central theme of this edition was to consolidate and improve the evaluation methodology. One of the limitation factors of the format of the challenge is that, well, the results are valid for the situation in which you test. This is also actually a limitation of most characterization schemes. So what we've tried in this edition was to diversify the types of sites that we used. We did this in a very close and very successful collaboration with our colleagues from Atmode de France, who I would like to especially thank. So we actually use the static outdoor evaluation site on an urban background station in Lille. So this is a region with more oceanic influence and more rainfall than Ile-de-France. So already there we have a different scenario than the previous editions. And also with concentration levels that are more typical of the French average than the station we used in previous editions. And what we would like to do as we move forward is really to try to involve more of our colleagues in the different regions of France to diversify the scenarios in which we test these sensors. And well, also a small note on our collaboration with Atmod France. I also like to thank them for the help they provided in the data processing. So this is for the first time that we had one of our partners directly involved in cross-checking all the calculations we did for the evaluations of the sensors. What else was different? So we've refined the way we calculate the accuracy score to add also a trueness sub-criterion to the methodology that we used previously. This helped us improve the differentiation between solutions that just correlate well with the reference from the ones that correlate and provide accurate absolute values. So we were more strict on accuracy. We're also more strict in terms of the reproducibility quality of the solutions by adding a specific and explicit sub-criterion for this. We also refined the way we look at what we previously called ergonomics and solution relevance by reshaping this criteria into what we now call utility and usability. And also by making sure that this, the calculations of this criteria are adaptive to the use case scenario. It's also an addition of increased transparency. So we've encouraged the candidates to provide us information on the classification of the processing level of their systems, so that we can provide to the users of the challenge results information on whether or not the data that are provided are raw measurements, local measurements augmented with local temperature and humidity information, or whether they are they include also modeling with external sources of information. So this is based on a publication by Schneider and all that came out in 2019. I think some of you are already familiar with it. So this information is now, well, it will be as soon as we release the results available directly on the challenge deliverables. Also transparency, so we're building transparency of environmental responsibility practices by the candidates. Right now we're at the stage where we've gathered information from the candidates and we're analyzing how to best treat this information and reflecting towards perhaps adding in future editions a criterion based on the environmental responsibility policies that the candidates have with regards to their products. It was also the first time when we tried to evaluate do-it-yourself platforms, and well, it wasn't a big success, unfortunately, but it was a learning opportunity, so that's good. I would like to thank Nathalie for a very good presentation on the challenges that people that try to use do-it-yourself platforms are faced with. These were challenges that we were also faced with, and we realized that we had to adapt our evaluation protocol to deal with this. And finally, this year we have a new interactive web platform for the challenge results. I'll get back to that in a second. To give you some general insights on the state-of-the-art evolution, so the evolution of the state-of-the-art as we see it in the results of the challenge, we see a clear overall improvement of microsensors participating in the challenge in both the data quality and the level of provided services. To give you an example, so data interoperability is now almost ubiquitous. So almost all proposed solutions provide a REST API for interfacing data with other applications. As in the previous editions, sensor targeting indoor applications still perform overall better than in the other categories. However, important progress is seen in both static outdoor and citizen air categories. And as you've seen already in this edition, we were able to give the first prizes for these categories. Then considering specific pollutant measurements, so NO2 measurements showed a high level of performance. PM showed improved performances compared to previous editions, particularly for the outdoor scenario, with PM 2.5 being always more accurate than PM 10. In terms of indoor volatile organic compounds, the performance was overall quite disappointing, although there are a few notable exceptions. And yeah, this gives rise to hope for the future for this this class of pollutants. Indoor CO2 has shown the highest level of accuracy, and this is particularly interesting in the current sanitary context. And also ozone has been progressing very well, and we had some interesting performances, and you'll see the results of that quickly. So getting back to our interactive web platform, so this is kind of a teaser to what you'll see as soon as we release the links. Those of you who are familiar with the challenge deliverables, we used to have this very nice, otherwise but static two-page reports for each candidate solution. We got very good feedback on this, but we wanted to go forward. We wanted to make them interactive and more easily usable. So what we have this year, we have a web platform that allows users to browse the solutions depending on different criteria. So the environment in which they were evaluated, the category in which they were evaluated, to filter by the pollutants that they're interested in. So just look at the sensors that provide those pollutants, and also order them by different performance criteria. Once they select a sensor of interest, they can look up their reports. So the reports, we try to make them as similar in general aesthetics and information content to previous years. Because, like I said, we did receive good feedback on this type of reports. So you still get the usual reports. But you also get the possibility to do side-by-side comparisons. So you have your main sensor you're interested in, but perhaps a second one that could also do the job, and you can look at them side by side and compare and see where the differences in performance lie. All right, so that's enough for me. I thank you again, and I'll give the mic back to Arnaud.
Okay. Thank you very much, Adrian. So it's going to be a very innovative tool, this visualization platform, web platform. It will be available on the new website of AIRLAB early next year. So now we are going to listen a presentation from the AQ spec in USA with Andrea Polidori, Vasileios Papapostoulou, and Ashe Collier, je sais pas comment, I don't know how to say, Oxendel. Okay, so I launched the presentation. No, sorry, the video. It's a video, sorry.
Thank you for taking the time to view this presentation. We will discuss Community in Action, a comprehensive educational toolkit on air quality sensors. This presentation will include some background information, a description of the educational toolkit, and a few reflections on public participation in aerosol research. In 2014, AQ-SPEC, or the Air Quality Sensor Performance Evaluation Center, was established with the goals of evaluating the performance of commercially available low-cost air quality sensors, providing guidance and clarity for ever-evolving sensor technology and data interpretation, and catalyzing the successful evolution, development, and use of sensor technology. Furthering these efforts, in 2015, the South Coast AQMD was awarded funding from the US EPA under the STAR Grant program under the topic Air Pollution Monitoring for Communities, and an effort was undertaken to engage, educate, and empower California communities on the use and applications of low-cost air monitoring sensors. The project was implemented through a series of workshops, during which community members were provided with education, training, and a low-cost sensor that they then installed. At follow-up workshops, the data collected by these sensors, analysis of that data, as well as the experience of those participating in the project was all discussed. And all of this information went into the creation of the final products, including the educational toolkit, reports, publications, and presentations. In terms of project outcomes, we ended up partnering with 14 different communities ranging from Southern to Central to Northern California. These communities varied a great deal. For example, some were located on the coast, while others were located more inland. And we also had both rural and urban communities participate. Approximately 300 particulate matter sensors were installed by community members, and roughly another 100 multi-pollutant sensors were deployed to provide supplemental information. We learned a great deal through workshops and surveys, and some communities even led their own data analysis, which resulted in reports and websites to share information. Next, I'll provide an overview of the educational toolkit, which includes a guidebook, training videos, data analysis and visualization tools, and a number of other supplemental resources. As a reminder, this work was shaped by our partnerships and interactions with 14 different communities, and the overview will begin with one of the videos included in the toolkit.
Have you ever wondered how much air pollution you're breathing? You can find out by checking air quality websites that show data from expensive high-quality monitors and that fill in some of the gaps with data from many low-cost sensors. But what if there aren't enough sensors where you need them? How can you build your own network of air quality sensors? You can learn how to monitor air pollution from the guidebook, Community in Action. The first step is to identify the problem that you want to solve. Look around your community for sources of air pollution and the people it might be harming. Air pollution comes from a variety of sources, not only power plants and factories, but also cars, trucks, construction sites, wildfires, even fireplaces and gas-powered lawn equipment. You can also use online tools to see if your area is known to be polluted. Once you know your goals and the sources that concern you, the guidebook can help you figure out what pollutants to measure, how many and what type of sensors you need, and where you should place them. As explained in the guidebook, place sensors evenly to measure air quality across the community. To understand the air pollution impacts from a specific source, place sensors at varying distances upwind and downwind from the source. Some sensors must be plugged into a wall outlet or be near a Wi-Fi router. Other sensors have their own solar power and cellular connection. If the sensors you need don't fit your budget, you may need to adjust your plan. When your plan is complete, it's time to order and install your sensors. You might have community members host sensors at their homes, or you might ask a business to host a sensor. Be sure to install the sensors where there is good airflow and away from other sources of pollution. Throughout the project, keep an eye on the data to look for anything interesting, and check on the sensors if they have strange readings. Remember, understanding what's in the air is the first step to improving it. Learn more by downloading the free guidebook today.
The educational toolkit, and in particular the guidebook, were designed to meet the needs of a wide range of users, including users from different backgrounds and with different levels of scientific and technical expertise. For example, here you can see a few pages from Chapter 2, and you'll note how visuals are used to communicate complex ideas and make the material more engaging. There are also elements throughout, such as the For Further Reading box, that direct the user to more in-depth information as needed. Emphasizing the versatility of the toolkit, here you can see some of the background information on pollutants presented in simple one-page graphics. These are available in the guidebook and are examples of resources that can be pulled out and used as needed, for example, in a community meeting. Here is one more example of a standalone resource that could be used to guide or facilitate discussions around sensor selection. You can see how this resource walks the user through all of the important considerations around sensor selection, which are laid out and discussed in detail in the text. In addition to practical advice for planning and preparing for a project, the guidebook includes advice on how to track and improve data quality and an introduction to data analysis. For example, it introduces different plot types and provides an overview of the tools that are currently available to help users better engage with and understand their sensor data. This includes the tools developed under this project, the Air Sensor Package and the Data Viewer tool. There is even a step-by-step example analysis of an air quality event that walks the reader through different data visualizations and shares key observations. The final section in Chapter 4 shares advice and stories directly from STAR grant communities on ways to maintain momentum during a project. For example, this section discusses how communities use social media to promote meetings or discuss air quality events, and how some community members undertook their own data analysis. The final chapter discusses actions to consider following the completion of a project. For example, one section shares ideas for programs or initiatives that can reduce emissions or exposure to emissions, such as no burn days and flag programs. Another section provides guidance on how and why to continue the research, including offering a few suggestions on places to look for more funding. And finally, in the Sharing Your Results section, there's advice on communicating about your project or the results to different audiences, whether that means education and outreach to the broader community, or conversations about your project with your local regulatory agency. I'd like to finish by sharing a few reflections on public participation in aerosol research. First, it's important to anticipate a wide range of participants in terms of backgrounds and skill levels. This will help you to see the opportunities to leverage and build capacity, as well as ensure the appropriate level of support is provided based on a community's existing organizational capacity. To provide an example, in one of our STAR grant communities, there was a participant who had extensive experience in programming but was new to air quality. Our team provided him with the guidance and assistance needed to access and understand different kinds of air quality and meteorological data, and he was then able to create data animations to share with the rest of his community to help them better understand their local air quality. It's also helpful to consider offering the same information or communicating about the data in different ways. You'll notice the toolkit takes this approach, for example by using videos, in-depth text, and one-page resources. It's also good to test out different types of data visualizations. In the STAR grant, we found that calendar plots consistently elicited the most engagement and participation during workshops, likely due to their intuitive nature. Finally, it's important to encourage community partners to consider objectives and potential outcomes from the start. This will help manage expectations and ensure everyone is on the same page. The educational toolkit is available on the AQSpec website at the link shown here. And as we work to disseminate these tools and resources, we hope that this will help us to sustain and strengthen existing partnerships, as well as build new partnerships and support sensor projects both locally and outside of the district. Furthermore, This dissemination will bring feedback and the opportunity to enhance and improve the STAR Grant Educational Toolkit. With that, I'd like to acknowledge our collaborators in this work, including those who are internal to the district as well as our external partners at Sonoma Tech and UCLA. I'd also like to acknowledge our community partners who are listed here. And once again, I'll say thank you so much for your time and attention. And please feel free to reach out with any questions or comments you may have to the email address listed in the top right.
So thank you very much for the EQSpec for this pretty nice presentation. Now, to give the 6 awards that I mentioned before, I give the floor to Dr. Christophe Huglin, leader of the Ambient Air Quality Group at EMPA in Switzerland.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for me to be here. And I think for interest of time, we just go straight into the presentation of this year's awards. So the Best Accuracy Awards. I will open the envelopes, or the envelope, and there all the awards are in one envelope. And I will start with the Best Accuracy Award for nitrogen dioxide, NO2. And the winner of this category is NVIDIA Carnet.
Okay, so maybe we can see if there is a representative. Yeah, Mr. Bandaoud, I guess. So if you want to say a few words. Okay, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to dedicate this award to the team from NVIDIA. We are committed to design and to produce high reliable and high performance sensor to our customer, because we believe that sensor should be reliable, and we want to be part of this global challenge of air pollution, because the real challenge is more than 4 million deaths per year around the world. This is our challenge, and that's what we are committed to design and to produce reliable sensor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have the next award. That's the Best Accuracy for an ozone sensor unit. And this award goes to BEDAIR Static Node MK2.
So, yeah, there is a representative of BEDAIR. BEDAIR. Okay. There's a microphone.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry.
Maybe first give you the thank you for the award. I didn't expect to get this award. Basically, I would like to thank to everybody who have helped us to arrive here and to congratulate the BEDAIR team. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We have the next award that is for the best accuracy for a PM2.5 outdoor device. And the winner is AIRLAB with the AirNode.
I want to check if there is a representative of AIRLAB on Teams, maybe? No? Okay, so we are going to give the prize, their prize later. Okay, let's continue.
Yeah, there's the next award, also for PM2.5, this time for indoor measurements. And here the winner is the Rubik's pot.
Rubik's. So yes, we have someone from Rubik's who's here.
Congratulations. Thank you very much. This is a great chance to have this prize. Thanks for all the team, the technical team. So thank you.
Thank you.
So the next award is for CO2. The most accurate device was the SAC QAI.
Okay.
Thank you. I would like to thank all the Challenge Airparif team because they were super amazing the whole time. This is our third participation at this challenge, and all the ZAC and IGNR team because it's a hard work for now 4 years, and we are very happy to share this with you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now the final award for the best accuracy sensor for VOCs goes to SGS AirSense Omni.
So we do have a representative of SGS, Mrs. Majesty, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Congratulations to SGS. Okay, thank you very much, Christophe. So we are going to continue with the most accurate multi-pollutant sensors. Finally, to award these two most accurate multi-pollutant sensors for outdoor and indoor air, I call on stage Mr. Etienne Devancet, the president of FIMEA. FIMEA is the French Association for Air Technology Professionals. Pour passer les slides.
Hop. So, hello, and thank you to give me the opportunity to present FIMEA, which is a tank of clean air solution and innovation. FIMEA, I am Etienne Devancet, and I founded FIMEA in 2009, and we are today more than 100 SMEs specialized in air quality, but not only. FIMEA is also a network, and we're working in collaborative intelligence with the most recognized partner and network in the field of air quality. And we are launched 8 regional FIMEA because air quality is mainly a local question. It's the new economy, sorry, okay, next slide. It's the new economics, and we are fighting for a clean air economics plan, and we are creating Ecosystem, the first clean air actor online platform. We work closely with the French public engineering at the national level and with regional atmos to foster synergy locally and, of course, with Airparif in Paris region. Hopla, that's a good one. Okay. Sorry. And we work with Airparif in many subjects, like research in the QI2, education with air education, and or urban and international strategy with the respiration or Guapo, and also more specifically with the AIRLAB and its Microsensor International Challenge, which provide a recognized qualification for microsensor, which is very helpful for FIMEA and the SMEs of FIMEA in many, many ways. and FIMEA give a major source of solution and innovation to the AIRLAB challenge, as well as a promoter of it. So, for all this reason, I am very pleased and proud to announce the most effective solution for the microsensors in 2021, and give an applause. What minute? Where I put my envelope? Here. So the winner, maybe I get. It's working? Okay. So the prize most accurate multi-pollutant sensor outdoor is to Rubik's Kunak Air Pro, and the double, and Rubik's Pod. Bravo.
Okay. Thank you, Etienne. So Kunak for outdoor air and Rubik's for indoor air. So is there are there representatives of these two companies? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. Okay, if you want to say a few words. So let's start with Kunak. So.
Okay. Thank you very much first to Airparif to hold this challenge, because I can imagine that it's quite difficult to manage so many data to make this a reality. And of course, thanks to the Kunak team, because they are working very hard to make all the sensors the same, work the same with the highest accuracy as possible. So this is the result of their work. So thank you very much to all the Kunak team.
Thank you very much. Oh.
Hello. Okay, thank you. Thanks again. Thanks for the challenge, for all the team, and for the Rubik's team. This is a long work, and this is we are very proud. Yeah.
Yeah. Second prize for you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Etienne. So we are on our way toward the conclusion. So I'm calling by Teams Oksana Tarasova, the Chief of the Atmospheric Environment Research Division at the World Meteorological Organization in Switzerland, for the conclusion and perspectives on this workshop, and for a 10-minute conclusion. So are you with us, Oksana?
Can you see me?
Yeah, we hear you and we see you. And we have your presentation on the screen. So everything is perfect. I give you the floor.
Thank you very much. Let me just see if it goes in presentation. Voila. So thank you very much, and I would like to thank all the participants who take part in this challenge. And I would like to express a really big gratitude to AIRLAB that actually coordinated this exercise. In the World Meteorological Organization, we look at the atmospheric composition from different perspectives, and we noted that the observational networks, which we have for atmospheric chemical composition, they have a substantial gaps in those observations, and are due to the importance of our air quality. We noticed that many countries started filling those gaps with low-cost sensors. To give a guidance to our members, we had to make a comprehensive evaluation of the state of the art in the low-cost sensors. You call them microsensors, with low-cost sensors, to give the guidance and recommendation for the users, for the producers, and for our scientific community on what is the state of the low-cost sensors and how this technology can be used. We produced the first statement in 2018, and we updated the statement produced the update in 2021, just beginning of this year, due to the fact that the area is very fast evolving and very fast developing. If we look at the applications where we notice the use of the low-cost sensors, the area of application in 2021 report was like double extended in comparison with what we've seen in 2018. So if we saw that the low-cost sensors were used to supply our traditional monitoring, to do a trend analysis, understand the relative differences into the community science, we noted that the spread of applications started including the community monitoring, hotspot identification, source characterization, and so on and so forth. So the area of the application of low-cost sensors is really growing. And what we also noticed through the different stages, the first challenge, the second, and the third one, is that in general, we observe a trajectory for improved capabilities in quality of those low-cost sensors. But as any technology, when you try to actually do very complex science within the small space and relatively cheap, there are challenges which are associated with technology. And there are certain limitations which we need to understand, we need to characterize and assess them. In this respect, if we look at the report, it says explicitly that the user community should continuously evaluate the low-cost sensor performance through the verification and the comparison are performed under real-world condition, and ideally by field deployment against the reference instruments. In this respect, the opportunity which the Microsensor Challenge created is directly in the response to this call for the continuous evaluation of the sensor performance. Moreover, the Microsensor Challenge this year will provide openly all the results of testing on the website, which will help the producers of the sensors and the users of the sensors to understand what are the pitfalls and what are the conditions and applications for different types of sensors. And in this respect, what Adrian said in his talk, that the testing conditions were changed during this year challenge, is really a big improvement. And this is very important to understand that low-cost sensors, which are delivered, for example, to the factory calibration, they have only the, let's say, the baseline accuracy and performance. If you wanted to understand how the sensor will work in a particular condition, you need to test it under that condition. That's why we put a requirement that the performance needs to be verified under the environmental condition where those sensors are operated. And in this regard, the challenge first diversified the condition, but it also demonstrated that the sensors have different performance under different conditions. So there are some sensors which work much better under higher pollution condition, and there are sensors which work much better under lower pollution condition. Also, depending on what type of particles you have, you can have a different performance of the sensors. Also, there was a new category which was used to characterize the usability of the sensors in different categories, and that is also very important because you need to define the sensor which best fits for purpose. In this respect, the presentation where our colleagues from US EPA presented that they have those observational, or that they have those educational tools to help the community define what is a question. This is a very good approach, but in a reality, we need to be very mindful, and we need to understand that the users oftentimes have difficulty to identify what is exactly they want to know. And also, we need to avoid the tendency to oversimplify the approach to the pollution. Air pollution is not a simple phenomenon, and sometimes the actions which you take on one side of the air pollution can cause really big problems on the other side. We've seen the episodes of COVID when everything was stand still, and we saw that the particle level in some parts of the world was not decreasing. It was actually increasing because it was secondary particles and not primary particles. So we should be very mindful. Having the data doesn't mean that you can have a good actions. We need to think about interpretation of the data as well. So the performance characterization for the sensors is also very important and very critical. And that's why in our recommendations we say that there should be the matrices which are used for the comparison of the sensor performance. And unfortunately there is no one single matrix which can tell you how the sensor compare each other. In this regard, the challenge of this year introduced several subcategories under truthness, which allowed to understand the correlation between the sensor and the reference instrument and accuracy. Why this is important? A correlation is good if you wanted to understand only the gradients. Like if it is more polluted in point A than in point B, or is it more polluted today than tomorrow? If you need to have the absolute number for the health assessment, for example, then accuracy is absolutely essential. And those characteristics should be kept in future challenges, but maybe even further characteristics should be added to get a better characterization of the sensors. And the last most important thing which I want to mention is the data availability. Even the perfect sensor could be close to useless if you cannot get the data from it. So we recommend that the best practices for data management and documentation are adopted and utilized, and we were very pleased to see that the challenge of 2021 was characterized by much better data availability from the sensors. So the data was transferred very easily and straightforward from many sensors. And we also noticed that many producers started to adhere to INSPIRE directive on our geophysical data, which is also very encouraging, because if you have the compatible data which have the harmonized exchange protocols, that would allow you to utilize those data or those different sources of data in the common application. Like if you want to do the air quality forecasting, you would be able actually to get the input data from more networks than as if such data are not harmonized. So with that, I would like to thank everybody very much. I would like to thank AIRLAB. You guys did a fantastic job. It's really a hard job to collect the sensors, characterize the sensors, develop the protocols. And I would also congratulate all the winners of this challenge. I know we put all the time more and more tough conditions in you. We have a good reason to do so. But we also appreciate that you take those conclusions and recommendations in consideration, and we see really a positive tendency with the sensor development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Oksana. Now it's time for acknowledgements. So I'm going to call on stage Karine Léger, the Airparif director, for the last word of this event. Excuse me. Okay.
So don't worry, I'm not going to speak for 10 minutes, but I just wanted to finish with to thank you, all of you, the consortium, the speakers, and the participants, because really it's thanks to you that this was possible today, this workshop, the third edition of the challenge. I also would like to congratulate again the winners, and there are a lot of you who win a prize, and these different editions of the challenge show really demonstrate really an improvement of the different solutions. Some of the solution and some of the device we have tested, we started to test them during the first edition, and then they came back the second edition and again the third edition, and we are quite happy with that. Now, all the results are now available online with the interactive platform that has been showed by Adrian, and you will be able to make comparison between the different solutions. And I really would like you to applaud the Airparif team because this challenge is really, really a challenge. Also, this workshop, half online and half here at EDF Lab was also a challenge. Adrian, maybe you can stand up. But also Arnaud, Pierre, Antoine, Stéphanie, Christophe, and all the people which are not here today, but that are at Airparif in the desk, in the lab. And they torture a lot, actually, your microsensors, but they did a great job. And I also would like to welcome on stage the partners and the speakers, because I think they also deserve a gift or an award for their help and for what they brought to this challenge. So please, the speakers and the partners, if you could come on stage.
So we can make a beautiful picture of this group of partners. So maybe Pierre, Antoine also, Adrian, Stéphanie also, you can maybe come on stage for this picture. Ah oui, c'est vrai. Christophe also, Christophe Debert. Stéphanie. Okay. What a nice team of this challenge edition. Okay, thank you very much. So this is the end. So thanks to all of you for attending the workshop. We wish you simply a good day and see you next time for the next edition. Bye-bye.
Merci Arnaud, c'était super passionnant. Je ne sais pas s'ils ont coupé quoi. Vous voulez parler? Oui, attention, mais maintenant.
Parce que ce serait bien qu'il n'y ait pas des gens. Tu vois, c'est un peu ça dont j'ai peur, mais du coup, juste c'est comme tu veux.
Maybe just a small word to tell the winners that we will have a small press conference. If they could stay around. If the winners could stay around for a few minutes, we will have a small press conference. There are two medias that are online and they have a lot of questions for you actually.